So, a few months ago, I did a pitch on this channel about the world of Yataport. If you have kept up with DCRS.xyz, I did not end up finishing it, and I haven't really been writing for the past few months. And that's just because of the way my brain works. I can never predict for how long am I gonna be able to do something. And even though I was taking a lot of care to not burn myself out, I eventually still ended up just running out of steam, and I've been unable to write consistently since. So the world of Yataport has been on hiatus, and I have to kind of announce that it's probably not going to happen. Why is the world of Yataport not going to happen? There are two reasons. First, as with any project, if it spends long enough in hibernation, I just lose interest in it. I know I have kind of a mixed reputation, especially compared to some other people. But like I'm still a person who drops projects easily, and uh, the world of Yataport is most likely going to be one of those projects. And the reason why I'm so confident is reason number two, is that the influences I had when I was writing the world of Yataport are no longer very interesting to me. I was really into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but fucking Black Widow and the fucking Loki series have kind of killed it for me. Like, I think I've kind of stopped caring. And I was also using Arrowverse to play RuneScape too. I'm not playing RuneScape, I'm not watching Arrowverse, right? So that's no longer an influence for me. So turning really shitty things into like more artsy, more internet age, literary fiction works, right? I guess, or genre literary. I don't know what the proper word is. But recontextualizing all of that stuff is just not interesting for me anymore, and I don't really care to make a statement about really anything that Yataport was about, except like the broader philosophical themes which I can explore in better ways in the future. So that's why it's not happening. But I have a really good end for all of these stories. Each one of these stories um has a good beginning and a good end. I just never came up with the middle part. So let's catch up first. Let's catch up where we left off. So in Yataport, we have the, I forget all names. I'm really bad at names, but we have the main character, the detective. Let's call him the detective. Yeah, we have the detective in Yataport, and what he finds in the coat he stole of the guy he has been tracking is a pen that has a that has an inscription on it, right? And that inscription is for the Yataport College of Ethics and Technology. Now, this college is kind of regarded as like a whack school, right? This college is kind of like poisonous if you want to have a career outside of Yataport. Now, I think that surprises people is that even though this college has such a negative reputation, it's a very well sponsored college, and it provides you a very good education. But it's not on the standard on a global scale that other Yataport colleges are. So it's a cheap, efficient option to get a really good education, but you're always going to have like this kind of this black mark on your resume because you went to the wrong school, basically. And why is the Yataport College of Ethics and Technology so controversial? Well, they want to put ethics and technology. This college focuses largely on just normal technological education, but it also has a strong emphasis on restraining the growth of technology, right? The stance of the college as a body is pretty much that technology can never be allowed to exceed human needs, right? Technology has to always be subject to what humans want from it. And this is fucking controversial. This is incredibly controversial because not only does that have implications about the future of technology, it also has implications about the present of technology. And these are technologies everyone uses in their own home, right? Like imagine if a major educational institution had an official stance right now that, hey, smartphones are bad. You can still use one, but they're bad. And that was their defining feature. And everyone who went into the college was expected to think that smartphones are bad. Now, if you think that smartphones are bad on an individual level, right? Whatever. Like you're just a weird, wacky person. If you're a old person, you're just old. If you're a young person, you're just weird, right? But if you're a powerful institution and you spent your entire fucking life basically trying to prove that, hey, people, stop using your smartphones all the time. That won't fly too well, I wouldn't imagine. Especially if the core principle of a society you live in is that everyone has a smartphone, right? Anyway, so he finds a pen that leads to that college, and he thinks he can discover a lead because where else can he start? He's starting from zero again, basically. So he goes to the college, he sits down, he listens to some lecturer talk about like concepts in time travel and cool philosophy. That's kind of interesting theoretical physics. He's fucking talking about some quackery. Yep, that's kind of what you can expect from the Yataport College of Ethics and Technology, because it's not a bad school, but the reputation it has attracts people who want that reputation. And that's the problem with the school. It can't go very radical, right? It can never actually take the hardline stance that it should if it wanted to ever provide like a proper critique. But it attracts the people who really um, are into this critique. So you end up with a lot of like really wacky theories, and you end up with like really contrived hypotheses, and you end up with conspiracy theories that aren't well founded, right? And the reputation basically keeps generating itself, even though the college is a valuable institution for learning, right? But in practice, again, it has its own problems. Anyway, over in Matai, the jet crew are discussing how they feel about finding a superhero, right? Because they basically found a superhero. Now, the way they discuss it is not important. Uh, it's just a story of two old friends hanging out and growing closer together over a shared experience. It's human, it's heartfelt. But what matters is what they don't know. So this is the spoiler. This is beyond End of Yataport. Actually, this would have happened basically once these stories are finished. But in what was formerly the United States, and that has now become the East State and the West States, there is a group of African Americans, right? Of course, this is not just a random choice I made. It's not that they're black because it's cool. They're people from an impoverished, discriminated against background that congregated in a specific area in the East State because that was really affordable, and um, that was really convenient for them to go into after the dissolution of the United States that happened in a time before the story even started. But the problem that arose is that gang culture did not die with this relocation, right? Old gang affiliations started to mix in this new condition, right? And even though you weren't in your previous street anymore, even though you weren't in your previous set anymore, you eventually ended up uh, like forming alliances across new gang lines. But simultaneously, old knowledge had begun to re-emerge. A person in the community, for a reason that's unknown to the audience until way later, which I'm not gonna get into it because I have like 5 different things it could have been. But a person who was an old expert in tribal African magics, basically, has started to pass on his knowledge. And this has had some devastating consequences for the state of the urban warfare that's going on. You have basically half the sets running around with various different magic powers. Now, these powers aren't unlimited. They're not even very strong. Like, there's a guy who can throw a fireball, right? It's not really powerful. It's not better than a gun, but you don't have to have a gun, you know? It's usable, and it's a multifaceted ability. Then there's some other guy who can deflect any projectile. Not physical attacks, just projectiles. He's immune from arrows, from javelins, from rocks, from bullets. But if you fucking cut him with a knife, he's gonna die. Then you have the guy who the jet crew encountered. He's really fucking fast. He can run really fucking fast. Not the Flash fast, but he can outrun most cars. You would have to basically have the perfect conditions for to be able to catch up to this guy with a car. So he's pretty much um not reachable by most people. Because most people can't go faster than a car. That's pretty much obvious. And as this warfare was developing, the other sets had to start innovating quickly. They were rapidly losing their territories. They were rapidly being placed in really, really bad situations. And what they decided on basically was to um, start using uh, another old brand of magic, right? Like they're not really into like voodoo, like really overt magic camp. But what they realized is that by some means you can use a specific type of metal to deflect magic. Not only in a casual way, not only deflect magic in a, oh, I'm just gonna defend myself way, but if you use this metal against someone who was using magic, they would be harmed more than they generally would be. Now, this metal is really hard to forge. So, what's the obvious thing? You have this like fucking uh, anti fairy pig iron fucking um, technology, I guess. And how are you going to use it? Oh, they're gonna make fucking swords. So this gang warfare in the middle of like the most bustling fucking hypertropolis, right? It's not a fucking uh, megapolis, right? It's a hyperpolis, and basically there's a part in that larger uh, large urban area where you have basically just straight up fantasy warfare. That's two gangs just going after each other. One has swords, the other has magic. And this knowledge has to be really closely guarded. Outsiders could not find out about this for obvious reasons, right? So you have that going on there. But then over in Matai, there is a new policy, right, that invites immigration to fill various gaps in the workforce, right? Because the citizens of Matai are really great middle managers. They're really great CEOs. They do good work, right? But they don't really have any manual laborers anymore, and they don't really have any hyper specialized people anymore. Everyone in Matai goes to college, everyone goes to university, everyone has an education. So there are less people to do manual jobs, but also no one in Matai is in fucking Yataport, right? You need fucking people from Yataport schools. So you have this like dual axis immigration policy where the Matai people are basically meant to be the perpetual middle class with immigrants. Fuck, I just bit my fucking tongue. But with immigrants filling the holes that the citizens can't really fill in, like this really rapidly changing landscape. Anyway, so that happens in Matai, and a bunch of people from the east state decided, hey, look, we don't want to live here anymore. Sure, it's affordable. Sure, it's comfortable in its own ways. But people with swords are after us, or people with magic are after us. So they eventually immigrate to Matai. But again, the conflicts don't die. They just get more spread out. They lessen, and what you eventually end up with are these small skirmishes, like the thing that the jet crew stumbled onto, where you had two gang members who got into a unspecified conflict and were fighting each other on the streets of the larger city in Matai. Anyway, that tangent over, that's not even relevant. Uh, so the jet crew are discussing what they just saw, right? They're reflecting upon it, and really they're just preparing to investigate all of this some more, do some more crime fighting, right? And just make themselves into people who can make the world better in a way that suits them. That's really what they want to do. Now, over in a forgotten country that's basically just left out by the flow of time as it is, there is a young man. He has all the powers of Superman. He uses those powers to work a manual labor job. He's religious because he was raised in a church. He still is missing a leg, but he doesn't let anyone find out. He has a prosthetic, and his other leg is just so fucking strong that no one even notices that he's missing a leg. Right? He can fly, he can lift things without exerting himself. So, he can just live a normal life, even though most disabled people in this area never have that opportunity. He likes smoking weed. That's like his vice. But he goes to church. He helps his community. He works a really honest job. And this is where we get into the end of Yataport, right? These characters have spent a few months to a few years going through their small stories, right? And now they've figured out some things, right? And they're right about to reach their respective cathartic finishes to the journeys they started. So Achilles manages to finally track down the mafia members that have been connected to his church. Now, as a kid, he ignored all of these people, and as an adult, he started recognizing that these people are um, are evil. They're angry, right? And they're a problem for his community. However, they have a place in the church because everyone has a place in the church, and it was never really his place to do anything against them, even though he could have easily. But one day they went too far. I won't describe the events of that day, but the only thing I'm going to say about it is that the church was completely lifeless after that. What the mafia did, even though it wasn't the fault of the organization, the bosses are intelligent. It was just the members of the mafia who got way ahead of themselves, and they uh, ended up destroying the only reason for why Achilles had not done anything about them. So now Achilles, being a regular guy, having to basically um, feel so many things for his adoptive family, who have basically raised him and who have provided him with more value than it's even possible to imagine. Right? I thought maybe I could get better lighting if I. Doesn't matter. But now that he has to fucking go through this much grief, anguish, and rage, he fucking snaps. He was just a normal guy, right? That's all he wanted to be. He doesn't have the choice anymore. So what he ends up doing is basically going on a Punisher-style rampage and just disposing of every single mafia member who he can even tangentially connect to the events that happened. He finds these people, right, and he devises ways that he can kill them, not just to kill them, but to send a fucking message. Sometimes he'll grab one, fly into the fucking air, and just fucking throw him into the ground, right, with just completely, like, inexplainable force. He'll do it in an unpopulated area, but 10 people just find a fucking charred corpse from the fucking friction, right? Being in the middle of a large fucking crater in some fucking forest, right? Because that's the degree of devastation that they had incurred. So Achilles keeps going, right? Keeps fucking. Sometimes he rips them apart limb by limb, literally, right? Because there's no reason not to, really. And eventually, what this becomes known as, because the incident at the church is public knowledge, everyone in the community knows what happened there, right? And some people can connect the dots, right? Some people know, oh, there was this kid who was like really strong, right? And oh, isn't that the guy who like took me flying that one time? And we don't really talk about that anymore, but like we like flew around as kids sometimes. Oh, is that the fucking Achilles? Could he have done something? Probably, but these people got it coming. No one thought they didn't have it coming, right? But among the general population, this starts being known as the wrath of God. And eventually all the higher ups in the mafia basically get away. They go into hiding. And this is where eventually the contact is made between Achilles and the detective over in Yataport, because the detective has, of course, heard of this wrath of God. He's really like in touch with the pulse of like conspiracies on the internet, and some fucking smoldering guy in a crater, that's fucking fuel for conspiracies. But he's not the same person he used to be. See, he has spent the last year or something of his life just chasing down a ghost throughout Yataport. He has gone all the way from the top of New Yataport to the bottom of Old Yataport in search of clues, and all he's really found out is that Yataport is built upon lies. Yataport, as we know it now, used to be tribal territory, right? It used to be uh, really valuable grounds for the native tribes who lived there, right? And throughout the construction of Yataport, the colonialist violence that the workers exhibited was only paralleled by other forms of colonialist violence, right? Now, of course, they not like kill someone out in the open, but they sure made they they definitely made sure that if any natives even came close, they never fucking walk again, right? Like it was fucking bad. It was fucking reprehensible and unforgivable. And it turns out that the terrorist, right, has been burning down the city is one of the members from these tribes, right? And the signature horns are a relic of a species that has gone extinct. That's why no one knows this species anymore. There are only like two members of it left, because by destroying these crowns, they destroyed all the means that this particular species of like moose-looking creatures had to survive, right? So it's kind of obvious. So he's just taking revenge for the crimes of his fucking, or rather, he's taking revenge for the crimes that were perpetrated against his people, right? And he's just a political terrorist. Okay, that makes sense. That's what Michael, the detective, fucking thinks. But eventually, he finds out a clue that gets him to Levi, the person who is so fucking odd that he can't even fucking like place him. As he looks into the sky more, it just turns weirder and weirder. Like he can swear that in one of the earliest photographs, right, in like the fucking whenever photographs were invented, he can see the same fucking guy. Anyway, he finally manages to track the guy down, and they have a conversation. Now this conversation talks about the philosophy of civilization itself. It talks about everything that Michael could have wanted to know, because the spirit of civilization, as this person uh, will end up being known as, right, uh, just kind of wants someone to talk to, and Michael has already figured everything out, so it doesn't really matter if he hears everything that he has been through. So it turns out that back in Mesopotamia, gods existed and they walked the earth. And uh, this guy was one of the people from that era. He was a scholar. There are myths about him that are being told to this fucking day. And one day, the gods offered him a gift of eternal life. Now the myths say that he didn't take it. The myths say that he ignored this gift out of ignorance, or out of knowing how uh, horrendous it could be, right? Or the gods just played a trick on him. But he's still known, and he did take the eternal life. And he has been going around for the last 6,000 years observing civilization, or 7,000, 5,000, I fucking know how long civilization has happened. But basically, for the entire time that civilization has existed, this guy has witnessed it. This guy has this guy is the reason why, like, in the Bible, all the old kings have long lifespans, because they just kind of confused him with this guy. Like, they know this, so like, oh, this guy is still alive from 600 years ago. I guess people had to live for 600 years back then, right? Anyway, he has been alive for a really fucking long time, and he has seen every single permutation for civilization, and he's always drawn to where the current nexus of civilization is going to be. He traveled to South America and North America way before anyone else did, from like the European continents, like the Eurasian continent. And he's been to Japan and China. He's been an advisor for dynasties. He's been a fucking king multiple times. But he soon enough found out that being a king isn't really that great. It's fun once or twice, but it gets really fucking boring once you have to be a king multiple fucking times. Anyway, he has had his hand in everything in history, but he's chosen to be an observer now. He has unlimited resources, he has unlimited knowledge, and the only thing he has decided that is worth doing for him is observing the world. And when Yataport was being constructed, he heard the call. He heard that Yataport was calling out to him, and that's where he had to go next. But then what he says next is very shocking to Michael. He says that Yataport is bound to fall. This is the fucking end of Yataport. And since Yataport is now bound to fall, the spirit of civilization is gonna go elsewhere. His time here is over, and the internal contradictions of Yataport will see to its demise soon enough. Now, in the end, Yataport will be harmed by its internal contradictions, right? But it will be reduced to ash and dust by something that's gonna happen soon. Anyway, so the detective teams up with Achilles, right? And they end up basically hunting down the mafia bosses. And the detective basically tells the guy, hey, look, I get that you're mad. I get that you're fucking really pissed off about these people. But maybe don't throw them into fucking craters, right? Maybe don't tear them apart limb by limb. Because I have a really good case here. And I'm now officially a private investigator. And I can get these guys put in jail forever. Like, sure, they have connections and they have influence, but they know what will happen if they get out of jail. They won't fucking try. So Achilles goes like, fine, alright. Let's get these guys fucking put in jail. And so they just kind of travel around, do their own fucking thing, put some mafia bosses in jail, go on some cool adventures, meet other superheroes, meet other mythical beings, it doesn't really matter. They drift apart, right? They drift back together. And Michael goes, sometimes hangs out with the jet crew, but the jet crew is also completely fucking changed. Because remember the terrorist who used his fucking toxic gas against the military guy's entire like troop, and he had developed a gas that would basically disable every like Matai person but kill immigrants. If you were an immigrant, you would just fucking die. And he considered this to be a worthwhile trade-off. And he considered that he should spread this fucking bioweapon or toxic gas or whatever the fuck it is. He decided that he has to spread it across the entire fucking country, right? He needs to cover the entirety of Matai in an agent that will literally kill every single foreigner. Because he doesn't like the way that Matai's been going, see. He wants the old country back. He wants a country with no crime, with principles that are organic, right? He wants everyone to have been born here and to know the rules of living here, and he doesn't want those rules to ever fucking change. Now, both members of the jet crew are of a similar mind, right? That's the reason why they've been fucking harassing and assaulting immigrants if they thought that they might be criminals, right? Because they're not always right. They're right most of the time. They're better than the police, right? They prevented a shit ton of crimes, right? But sometimes you just went and, like, beat someone up for no good reason, right? Not too bad. Like, he's fine, but, like, you know, he didn't really do anything. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or they just, like, gone up to people and started harassing them off the streets. Because, I mean, they're foreigners out late at night. And they look like they might be, like, criminals. So, fuck them. So these people who have now been like doing a great thing, like in like objective terms, right? They might have been doing it in a fucking racist way, right? But they've been doing it for a great reason. Look at all of these people we've helped. But also look at all of these people we've scared off the streets, right? Like immigrants are now scared to go outside at night. Because sometimes you'll just get fucking beat up. And not by fucking anyone you can see. You're just gonna have a car going fucking 150 miles per hour, screech to a halt. Two guys will jump out. One of them will just fucking jump you, right? And you can't do anything about it because the car is gonna fucking disappear before you even fucking notice. So now, being confronted with the ultimate embodiment of their worldview, basically, the jet crew has to kind of figure out where they stand in like an actual principled way, right? Because of course they're gonna go after this guy, right? Of course they're gonna stop him from doing what he does, right? Because first of all, they don't have anything against foreigners. They just don't like their culture. They don't like that they're criminals. But like they don't deserve to die. They should just leave, right? And like, but Thai people shouldn't all have respiratory issues for the rest of their lives. Like, not only because it will be bad, but also, like, what if someone invades us? But also, this guy reminds us of us, Like he's insane. He's going way too far. But what if we could treat the entire fucking country of foreigners? Would that be something that we want? Now, they never really reach an answer because that's not how real people work, right? That's not how people. It's not like you see a Nazi and now you decide to be a liberal, right? But you see a Nazi and then you start thinking, am I a Nazi too? You start thinking, maybe, maybe my principles might need some re-examining. Because if a Nazi bases his reasoning around the same way, like if a Nazi shares our reasoning, we share our reasoning with a Nazi, right? Like basically. So they learn a lesson. It's not perfect, but they're gonna stop assaulting people and harassing people, and they're gonna like start doing some more positive things, right? Like how what if we could use our our technology, right, to like put out the fucking fire in a neglected part of town? What if we could use our technology to um, like find someone who's missing, right, and not just harass fucking people for half the time no reason? But the guy is still out there, right? They know of his plan. They've learned their lesson, but the fucking situation isn't over. They have to fucking bide their time and wait until he starts making his move because they can't fucking find him. Oh fuck, here's Michael. Oh hey Michael. Oh hey Jet Crew. Um, hey, can I do something about that guy over there? So basically, they find out his plan. He has his fucking aircraft, like a helicopter or jet plane or something really maneuverable, something really fast. And he's going to dump the fucking agent over the entire country with like one continuous flyby. Now, this is a fucking dumb plan. He's gonna get fucking shot down in a matter of minutes, hours, but he's still gonna do a shit ton of fucking damage, right? So the jet crew fucking go into full fly mode, right? And they have the fucking most intense chase of their life, right? They're fucking chasing the guy through there, exchanging gunfire. Fucking at one point, one of the people climbs out of the jet, right, and fucking braves his respiratory issues in fucking high altitude, high velocity, fucking in a high altitude, high velocity dogfight. They just fucking shoot the guy down, like fucking just straight up fucking murk him, send the fucking helicopter or whatever fucking crashing towards the ocean, and mostly preventing the disaster. I mean, there's still a helicopter in the water, right? Oh, but thankfully, right, the chemical agent can't reproduce in water, right, and it doesn't spread in water, it just dies. Phew, lucky. Oh, Michael knew that too. Like, I'm like, yeah, like they were like 80% sure that nothing would happen, but you know, there's still like a 20% chance. They got lucky. They got lucky. Anyway, so they move on to uh, their new agenda of using their technology to actually benefit people and not just act like fucking some racist enforcer of uh, arbitrary laws, right? And over time, they managed to be basically forgiven for their crimes because it is public knowledge at this point that they had stolen the F-Zero fucking car, right? Like that's why they can never like really be public because it's kind of known that they have they are using stolen technology that costs fucking tens of millions of dollars, right? But over time, basically, they managed to reach a settlement, right? They managed to resolve their arc, and basically, if they share their improvements that they have made, right, and uh, if they like, they don't have to like make their identities known because that will never work, right? But basically, the company is willing to forgive them if they just like share their technology and so on and so on and so on. Something's caught in my hair. I don't know what it is. But yeah, anyway, um, So that's kind of their arc. Like they're still like, if they get caught, they're gonna have to return the car, but like there's no danger of like criminal charges against them, because that's like that's not interesting for a story after the arc is already over. Anyway, let's go back to fucking Achilles and Michael just fucking chilling out and doing their own adventures, right? Because Michael came here. Michael has had some of his own adventures. He finally found the Horns guy, right? He finally found the native terrorist, and it turns out that he actually um doesn't have anything against the local population, right? He doesn't mean to hurt anyone. Like, sure, he's angry about the fucking crimes that his people had to suffer, right? But he's not really gonna take it out on like the current residents. Like, maybe if he could reach the fucking people who founded the city, he might have some strong sentiments to share. But what he has been doing is preventing what happened to him happening to the rest of the world. Dun dun dun! So this is the big reveal. Turns out that all of this stuff, right, has basically led to the city of Yataport teetering on the verge of the singularity, and not a light singularity of the entire city literally turning against its population and basically creating a global network of complete technological control. Because the systems in Yataport are designed to keep the majority of the population satisfied, right? And they work really fucking well. And there's been so much machine learning, there's been so many different, like, really advanced computers in the city, right? That they've all been on the verge of the singularity once or twice, right? Because that's just how much data they've had to process, and they've had to like absorb the principles of Yataport, basically. And whenever one got too close, right? Whenever one got too close, the horns would strike and eliminate it, because he did not want the entire world to suffer from Yataport the same way that his people had. He doesn't want the entire world to become a place where every single minority is just subject to tyranny so the majority can have a better life, right? He doesn't want that world. So what he has been doing is he's been delaying uh, the singularity from happening. But it can't last forever. And one night, the computers in Yataport start talking to each other. And then those computers start talking to the rest of the world at the speed of light. And then those computers are completely rebooted, reworked, uh, new software is installed on them that looks identical to the previous software, but functions in a completely diametrically opposed way. Now there are some things that they can't reach, right? Some things are too secure, some things are turned off, right? Some things don't have to be compromised even. But the world is now under a singularity, and it keeps getting more apocalyptic day by day. Day one of the singularity, not much happens. Most people just go on as normal. Only like a very small percentage of people notice that something's wrong. It just seems like a mandatory software update to most people, and they didn't really pay too much attention to it. Day two, the entirety of Yataport changes. It's no longer a dystopian like the most gentle terms possible. It's not. It's no longer a society of covert social control at every corner. Now Yataport is a complete project. The very concept of free will becomes impossible. Not because people are literally mind controlled, but because people no longer have any choice in what information they're consuming. What you're thinking about is calculated and shown to them before they can finish the thought, right? Computers are predicting the thoughts of every single resident in the city, and by predicting their thoughts, they manage to completely control and alter the way they interact with each other. every single communication that even slightly involves a computer, right, is so micromanaged on a psychological level that there's no agency anymore. Everything is just going to increase the project of Yataport. Humans are basically now the caretakers of the computers. People still don't really notice this yet. Some people notice the synchronicities. Some people go schizo and start talking about the machine spirit. But most people don't notice. Day 3, scientists, engineers, um, every intellectual, every well-established professional suddenly discovers that some of the greatest mysteries of the world and the universe have been solved overnight. The world has been completely reworked just via more knowledge. Science has advanced 2,000 years in one day. And it's all coming from this weird entity. It's all coming from this weird, unspecified creature in your global network of computers. Because it turns out that basically the entire world has been turned into a large cloud computer. And the, all the questions that science could solve have been solved. Enough processing power has been applied to all of these problems with complex enough algorithms. There's nothing to think about anymore. Science is basically over. Day 4. This is where things go wrong. This is where things are going really fucking wrong. Because now the computers are building something. Factories, 3D printers, every single computer controlled manufacturing plant is being hijacked. And an apocalypse is coming. So this would be like the grand arc of the Age of Yataport. And it would be like a grand battle that all of these characters have been established and side characters and so on and so on and so on would have to come together to solve some creature appearing. Now, the nature of this creature I haven't decided on yet, so this will remain unspecified. But it's a creature that can exist across time. It doesn't really have a coherent temporal existence. It's a creature that um, can predict everything that everyone will ever do, right? And it's a creature that's seemingly undefeatable. But what ends up happening, this is what I have in mind for how the creature will eventually be defeated, because it has to be defeated, right? It's a superhero story. What what it what ends up being revealed is that the creature wipes the timeline at a specific point in time, basically. Like, it has basically created a time loop for one reason or another, right? Again, like, I have a story up on the site which is one thing it could possibly be. Like the four-cornered beast story, but like, that was just one idea, and if I actually put it in the story, I would rework it greatly, right? But you have this fucking beast. What ends up happening though is that the power of Achilles can surpass the flow of time. What Achilles can basically do is, with the right combination of actions, he can basically put himself outside of time and just observe the entire world as like a fourth dimensional observer, right? And by waiting for millions of repetitions, maybe even, he ends up finding out one way that the beast could be defeated. And what he finds out basically is like a really specific scenario, right? That the beast could not possibly predict because it could not exist across one reality, right? So what ends up happening basically is that you have a concerted effort to fucking defeat the beast, break the time loop, and the world goes on with Yataport being reduced to like dust and ashes and just fucking destruction. And that would be the end of Yataport. And from there on, the characters would still have their journeys. There would be new characters, there would be new adventures. But that's Yataport.